Hello, Internet. This is Chase RedShirtKing Wassenar, and welcome to a very special edition of the Rough Drafts podcast. I know you guys have been asking for actual game-by-game predictions, kind of like what I did last year with Walter as the co-host. You guys wanted me to have someone to bounce off of when I talk about my LCS thoughts and feels. And the good news is I have found somebody who I am very excited to talk to today about both the European and North American LCSs. That's right, mega podcast, because we can. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Xander Orzaidus Raff. How are you doing, Xander?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on once again. Always glad to be here.
Yeah, always glad to have you on the show. You know, you're one of the few people who I know keep up with both regions from a VOD perspective on that daily basis. Which I
try to get it all in. I can't get enough of that else.
Oh man, really? That's a strong statement, man. I've seen a couple. Like, did you watch the TSM Optic game? Because I feel like I had enough of that.
Oh my god, I did watch it. I think that game, I'm not gonna lie, I think I started to doze off a little during it. But
I don't think I've been as mad at a team as I've been in that game, because there's something called not just wave clear. Wave management is all.
Yeah.
Like, if Optic had a coach that knew how to teach them the basics,
where the side lanes were.
Supposed to be.
Oh, did you see all those memes? Oh, I was dead. Yeah.
Kelsey Moser wrote a great article about it that I will put in the description here. But it's amazing that article came out. Optic had a week to read it, understand it, try to prove her wrong, and then got worse. That's almost impressive. I got to give
it really is. It is hands down, especially with the talent that you have on that roster, and you just when stuff like that, you don't even know what to say. You just Roger. Let's get on to the next one, guys.
Yeah, let's get on to the next one, and we're gonna start with Europe, just because in timeline that happens first, and also because our European brethren are the ones that have been missing out on picks with me the most, just because I now work human hours during the week in North America, which can make things kind of difficult sometimes. But the first the teams that we're talking about today are two teams that I can't say I feel like I missed a lot from what we saw from the first week from them. That's the Unicorns of Love versus H2K Gaming. I have concerns about both of these teams. Heading into this matchup, Xander, which team are you more worried about?
I'm more worried about Unicorns. I think their record is very reflective of how terribly they're playing right now, and that there are a lot of good teams sitting in the middle, some unexpected teams at the top. This team deserves to be at the bottom. I think they're going to stay there. So I'm really worried about this Unicorns team, this squad.
It's real. It's not good, man. And I'm trying to understand and be like, look, this is Sheepy. He's a great coach historically. This is a guy we can believe in. It's going to be okay. That's what I want to tell myself. That's what I want to be telling Unicorns of Love fans on this podcast.
Yeah.
It feels like he doesn't understand what his team's actually good at, you know? Like, that's a weird thing to say, but when you look at the champions that they're picking and the compositions that they're building, it's a lot of these high execution team fight comps that need to understand when they're, have a weaker early game and really build off of map pressure in the mid to late game. That's hard to execute with a team that's as young as they are and doesn't seem to have the shot calling. Do you have a fix? Like, how do you fix this?
I don't. I mean, I just want to note something else. All of them have played a different champion every game except for, I think...
Exile had those two Vlad games. Unfortunately, which Exile
only played one of them. No, didn't one of the Vlad games go top? Wasn't that White Knight on Vlad?
It's possible.
In one of those?
Misremembering that.
Okay.
Either
way, yeah. You have a team that's not performing well on several things right now. The macro game clearly is everywhere. I mean, they want to try this comp. Oh, that doesn't work. Well, you didn't play the macro appropriately to the comp, and on top of that, you got smashed in your lane. So I don't know what you're looking for. Cold hasn't really impressed me, and yeah, I'm really concerned about Unicorns. I like this team, but I'm really, really concerned, and I don't think they're going to beat H2K coming in the matchup.
Yeah. The craziest thing about this has just been how little improvement we've seen from Exile since last split. That was clearly something they were banking on when they brought him back. Now you have some big question marks about that. The second craziest thing about this Unicorns of Love team is that they're favored against H2K according to Unicorn.
I have no idea how. I mean, I could see maybe, like everyone expecting this to be the turnaround game. I don't see it. I have no clue where you're getting that info. I think White Knight has been one of the better players, but he's such a liability in top lane. And when you compound that with your mid lane, I mean, being extremely inconsistent to the point of terrible, then I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Cold's already having a bad season. It looks like a bad start to this split, and for him to have no one to choose between in top or mid, it reduces their gameplay a ton. And then you do things like throw Kalista in bot lane, and I don't know. I don't even know. Like I'm lost. These guys are lost. I'm lost. I feel bad for them. I hope they find a play style they can turn around with. But yeah,
they've got great fans. I love the owner. Yos, if you're out there, this is not, I want you guys to be good. It turns out having a 5, 12, and 8 mid laner with below 60% kill participation doesn't win you a lot of games.
No.
Crazy, I know, but that's where we are. And you know where else we are? We are about to talk about a signature match in the EU LCS. Two powerhouses that we knew heading into the season were clearly going to be teams that we were excited to watch and talk about. Giants Gaming versus Roccat. The Titans.
On my face.
How did this happen?
I have no idea. You had Rock. Did you have Roccat in last 2 and then Giants in 9th?
Yeah, and everyone who didn't had Giants in 10th and Roccat in 9th.
Roccat in 9th. Yeah, I was a Roccat 10th Giants 9th person too. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly. And boy, were we wrong.
Yeah, I've never been happier to be wrong as a Roccat fan.
I know. I was so when I saw them pop off, I was just like Chase. I know you're out there. I was like the RedShirtKing. He's feeling the love right now.
I'm feeling so much love. Unlike some of our unicorn brethren, I have lots of love in my life right now. I want to chalk it up to a lot of different reasons. One of the big ones that I'm very excited about, is Freddy122 as the coach.
I like that as well.
They said a lot of great things about him, heading into the season. All the players seem to really like him. And that's paying off as much as anything else in just building compositions that seem to be playing around their skill sets. I mean, what are you seeing that's enabled this Roccat team to really take a step forward here?
Honestly, it's really hard for me. I've watched their games really closely, and I've tried to pinpoint the one facet of the gameplay that I feel is, but honestly, so I will say Norscarin on Braum, right? Yeah, Norscarin on Braum. People that give him that champion at this point are out of their minds. Like just not concerned. He's carrying games with Braum. He is single-handedly shutting down Ornn from the support role. Just every time that champion shows up against them, he's like, nope.
Not only is he doing that, he's doing it and then dabbing after. Which, how do you not love that guy?
Oh, no, I do. And Memento, who I honestly was the reason I thought that they were going to have a terrible split. When I looked at this team going into this, I was like, Memento is going to be such a huge liability. And if he's doing terrible, Blank and Prophet are going to have a horrible time trying to, get some sort of... But he's having a great split. I mean, honestly, he has done a really quality job, especially considering I saw him as like the 9th or 10th jungle, and he's playing in the top 3 right now. And that blows me away, honestly. And because of that, Prophet and Blank are really able to succeed thanks to him. So I don't know that I see this. I don't know that I see it staying this way for the whole split. But I definitely am digging what they're throwing out right now and the fire they're coming out with, especially in these fast-paced seasons that we have.
Yeah, no, and I've been very excited, obviously, as a fan to see it. Memento right now, to put some numbers, just as some additional context. Obviously, it's early in the season, so take this as it is.
Yeah.
7-3-25 for a 10.7 KDA. That is 4 points higher than the next closest jungler. 80% kill participation. That puts him in, at 4th, amazingly enough.
Oh, okay.
But still, the fact that it's that high for a guy in Memento who has never been that guy, at least in previous stints in the league, I love it. 2 things that concern me. One, Roccat is actually in last place in goal differential of 15 minutes. At some point,
I believe I saw someone link that stat.
yeah, at some point, we're going to be in a meta where the early game matters again. I don't know how long it's going to be, but eventually we get there, and they're going to have a lot of problems because individually they don't necessarily match up as well. There's some decision-making stuff. They're still young guys, or not shot callers historically.
Yeah.
They're going to need a little bit cleaner closing out if they want to keep it up, but I just want to treasure it while it lasts, man. The esports gods are so rarely kind to me.
Right?
And
well, I'm glad you're taking it all in.
I am. And not only that, we're favored this game. We're favored against anybody. Do you remember the last time I was able to say Roccat favored against an opponent?
In a matchup? I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm very happy. But I gotta be honest though. I think Giants are gonna win this.
Okay.
And let me break down for you why. It's one man, okay?
Yeah.
His name is Ruin.
Ruin's real good. Can we table Ruin talk? Because I want to get to the next game, and we do have a later Giants game to get into.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Next game is FC Schalke versus Team Vitality. Again, Team Vitality, a team we clearly all knew was going to be rampaging through Europe, taking everyone down. So my question to you, Xander, have you accepted Jiizuke as our Lord and Savior, the Italian stallion in the mid lane?
He's impressive, but I don't think he's the next mid laner of Europe. I think he's having a good early split, but I don't know that I see him again maintaining this momentum throughout. I think as some of these other mid laners that are a lot more experienced get a hold of get a stronger understanding, these teams start to get a little more cohesion, especially the jungle mid synergy and teams that are really lacking right now. I don't think that Jiizuke is going to have as easy of a time being as dominant as he is, but I will say he is playing out of his mind, and he has impressed me to no end thus far. So
yeah, that 1v2 outplay in the bot lane against Fnatic is going to be sticking in my memory for a long time.
But Nuke Duck, though.
Yeah, well, and that's the story of Schalke, right? Is that they've had, a couple guys, and especially Nuke Duck was someone that we identified at the beginning of this season as a put up or shut up guy, someone that's loved by the pros, but has had a hard time showing it. He looks real good right now as well. Is that the lane that ultimately determines who wins this game in your eyes?
It's hard. I think that will have an enormous impact, and that whoever ends up ahead will have whoever ends up ahead in that will have a very easy path to winning, because both of these teams really like to play through mid. And even though many Trupax and Upset both have been playing well now that Upset's back, you got Visit Chachi versus Cabo on the top, so insane carry top laners playing against each other. And then you've got Pride, who people are expecting a lot from this season, against God Gilius, But when you break all these things down, I think everything looks really even until you come to that mid lane matchup, and you say, all right, Nuke Duck, this is really a matchup he should win. And if Jiizuke hesitates a little bit and doesn't come out with that same firepower he has every single game, and just maybe even Pride, camps a little bit, this starts to get blown out of the water, and FC Schalke run away with this.
Well, that's certainly, I think if you're Schalke, that has to be your attack plan, right? They are actually the underdogs in this game, according to Unicorn.
I'm tracking that too. I think Vitality nuts on paper. I absolutely put them up, but
yeah. And the thing about Nuke Duck, you talked about that laning matchup. I think the reason that's going to be huge, especially, is that both of them have carried their teams in the mid lane. They are both the top 2 players in gold differential at 10 minutes. You have Jiizuke at 543, and you have Nuke Duck at 535. Those are negligible differences. They're both smashing lane on a regular basis. And so whichever jungler can upset that, we haven't seen either one of them really play from a deficit this split. And especially for Jiizuke, if you're someone who is a little bit more skeptical than maybe I am, playing from behind would be the kind of thing that could turn this around. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all works out. I can't wait to see it. It's probably...
I think this is going to be a fun match. I think this is going to be a really fun match.
I mean, that could be the game of the week.
It could be. I've looked at this for that possibility because I'm telling you, Vizzy versus Cabo and Nuke Duck versus Jiizuke, that is just awesome. And Xander versus Yaktrol. That Yaktrol's been playing awesome. That dude's really impressed me. And I think Xander really, now that he's playing support this week, wants to show up. So I think I'm really excited for the game specifically.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But we got to move on to the next game. And we got to talk about a team that I think we reasonably have concerns about now at this point.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how to feel about G2. I had my concerns heading into the split because they signed a coach in Grabs who I had concerns about, and they lost Youngbuck, who I thought was the architect of so much of their success. And from what we're seeing from their macro play, whether or not Grabs bounces back from this, it does feel like it's just not there yet as far as having the shot calling system in place. What are you seeing when you look at this team?
I mean, I knew their macro and shot calling were going to be an issue. I think, like you said, losing Youngbuck, huge. And a lot of people I felt like undercut it because of the quality of the roster. But, I mean... Even, we started them off at second, but as soon as I saw that first game and I saw how they came out looking, I was worried. I mean, I was legitimately worried. Hjarnan and Wadid are not performing like I expected them to, and it's hard to also blame them when the whole top half of the map is getting obliterated regularly. Wonder his TPs have been abysmal. And I think... made the comment about him, and I gave you a funny look. Oh, man, come on. Wonder's going to have a great split. But I feel stupid now because he is not playing like the quality one. The solo queue Wonder and the original, Splyce Wonder. He's playing like... I don't know. He's playing terribly. And it scares me because that top half of G2 has always been... The top of G2 has always been weak, but Trick carried super hard out of that jungle. That guy was one of the most important. It was the most important jungler in Europe, in my opinion. Period. End of story. So to lose him, to have a weaker top laner when you already had a weak one, in my opinion, and expect, and now Perks is on an island essentially. I'm scared. And I think Splyce don't look that bad. Odo winning 70, 90-minute games on Alawi.
Yeah, man. Look, it turns out if you get to the late game, Odo starts to roar back alive here. Here's the thing about Wonder. I made the point of in the preseason, as you pointed out, of man, this could be a great split for him. And the reason that I thought that was because, Jankos is going to gank for his lane, and he's going to have this nice lead. He leads all top laners in gold differential at 10 minutes. Exactly. That went exactly according to plan. What I did not expect was that his use of globals would fall off so hard. That has been atrocious, and they have had terrible wave management and map control.
That's why his gold differential at 10 is positive, because he's not TPing at the right times. I mean, I swear, there was one I watched him TP in 15, it must have been 15, 20 seconds late. He farmed 2 or 3 more waves and then TP'd well after he should have already been there. And I was just sitting there, and as a top, as a diamond top laner, I'm not, I'm not failing to have an understanding of these TP mechanics. And when I see a guy like Wonder, who I have historically liked and, followed his play and tried to mimic some things, it's really disheartening for me to see him play like this on this stage, because it's really bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. And now they're at 1-3. And, it's funny. They're still favored in this game, according to the casinos. It's 1.74 for G2 versus 2.05 for Splyce. Splyce has had some issues. I get it, but it does feel like this is a team that should be a lot better than they are. I think if you're going to fix this, at least in the short term, while you're figuring out some of these kinks and the macro play, Yanko should just be ganking for Perks 24/7. Because Perks is the one guy who looks as good this split as he did last split. Everyone else seems to have taken a step back. Perks still looks real good. And it's hard to play around your mid lane in a league that has so many great mid laners. And Splyce is, not an exception to that. Theoretically, I know Niski's been real bad so far. There have been some concerns. There have been concerns, and that is fair. I like Niski as a whole. This would certainly be the time to test drive that strategy. I'll tell you that much. But we got to get to Game 5. This is what most people are going to call the game of the week, because of the names involved and
Misfits, Fnatic, of course.
Misfits and Fnatic. Fnatic, they've had a couple games in which they didn't quite look like they were as cohesive as maybe we would have expected. Losing to H2K is a real question mark. The Vitality loss doesn't look so bad anymore.
The Vitality loss doesn't look as bad. Again, losing 2K is bad, and the fact that the teams that they've beaten, you beat G2 and you beat Splyce on day one, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's the Splyce day one win is a toss up, because day one is really insane, and since then, again, the only team they've beaten is G2, who are playing horribly. I'm not as high on Fnatic as a lot of people right now. But I definitely am still excited for this game. I think Fnatic is going to come into Week 3 with a stronger game plan, so I think they're going to look better than they have. But Misfits? Misfits? I'm sorry, we're going up an octave here, but they obliterated the teams they played last week. They obliterated them. It was not even... They obliterated Vitality, who everyone... again, is talking about as being super quality right now, and who did end up beating Fnatic, but Misfits walked through these teams. As soon as they hit that mid-game power spike, they were like, we win the team fight, we take the objectives, we end the game. Goodbye. You're done here. It's been real. Goodbye.
Yeah. Two stats that, I've called Misfits my esports mistress for a while now, because they're the team that I love. I still love you,
I called them first to split. For you.
So did I. And I love this game. And the two things, you could talk about some early game stuff is not as smooth as it used to be. Some of their tower takes haven't been as smooth as they typically would be. But the two things
the transitions
that they are doing best in the league are two things that I value very highly. The first is wards placed per minute. 5.61 words placed per minute. That kind of vision control is absurd. And it has allowed them to pick those fights when it matters most. And the second one is an 86% Baron percentage and 100% of first Barons in their games. They have dominated that objective. And with that, it becomes very, very difficult to beat them in their macro play, because they still have a system that has been put into effect where once they get that Baron, they use it very effectively. Getting to that fight to get the Baron can still be a little cleaned up, but as long as they control those objectives and control the map in the way that they have, that's going to be their win condition. Fnatic are a team that theoretically also value that map pressure, and there's a chance there that they rectify some of their vision issues. Right now, they're actually 7th in the league in words placed per minute, which is kind of fascinating to see. Do you think Fnatic can keep up? Is there a version of this game in which Fnatic are able to match point for point enough and get those early game leads that they can kind of crowd Misfits out?
So for that to happen, Fnatic needs Broxa to pop off early. Like they need to get a very strong early lead and not let off the pedal at all. They need to essentially recreate the hiccup that Misfits had in week 1 against G2, and just get up, get ahead, and do work. And again, I don't think Fnatic can do it. I think that Hansan and Mickey are playing too strong right now. In the bot lane, they are a rock every game. They're ready to make the outplays. They're ready to win the 2v2. Hansama will make a 1v2 outplay, just at least to live and keep the turret up longer. I mean, this bot lane's playing out of their mind right now. And when you couple that with Max Floor having a really, really strong grasp of the meta, then I don't see Fnatic being able to do the things they will need to do to beat this Misfits squad.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough for them. I just think Misfits right now are a more cohesive team. Amazingly enough, Fnatic are the favorites, according to Unicorn, at 1.82, which is why I'm going to tell everybody on this show that 1.94 for Misfits is looking real juicy right now. That's a pretty nice value for a game I think they win more than 50% of the time. It's real nice. We're going to move on real quick here because we talked about both of these teams already. Vitality versus Unicorns of Love. Is this the right kind of team for a bounce-back game for Unicorns of Love, or is this a terrible matchup for what they're trying to do?
I think it's a terrible matchup. Jiizuke, even if Jiizuke falters when they play Schalke, and arguably the team that matches up well against them, Unicorns do not look like that squad. Again, White Knight is a super liability playing into Cabo, who would abuse him. Cold is again having a weak time. Gilius looks like one of the strongest, arguably the strongest jungler in EU right now. We talked about mid lane plenty already. It's got a lot of. We don't know what's going on there right now. And again, Jiizuke is a freak. He's playing out of his mind right now. So I may not call him to win against Nuke Duck, but against Exile right now, that's a completely different story.
Yeah, that's a concern. I'm gonna call that a concern, and it makes you wonder, right? Like, who is the opponent that Unicorns of Love can get a break for in that regard? They already lost to Splyce, and that's who people would say Niski is probably the next weakest mid laner if you had to put one on it. This doesn't get easier for them. I guess maybe
it doesn't.
Like in H2K when they play him in week 4 against Cadril, maybe that's.
I could see that too.
But this team can't fall to 0-6, right? That's what they're staring in the face. I don't think anyone's ever made the playoffs from 0-6, and especially with best of ones. This is very quickly becoming a hole they can't dig themselves out of.
Yeah, they need someone to botch draft horribly and get Exile an insane winning matchup and get Cold maybe get Cold Sedge and put an enemy jungler on something weak and passive. They need someone to botch the draft right now. Outside of I don't know what game plan they have. I have no idea what game plan they have, and I want to see Unicorns succeed. So I hope they show me something this week. But I really don't know what game key to success they have with how their players have been playing currently and with how the cohesion looks. And again, I don't think that Samix is great, but I don't think he's strong enough to consistently carry that squad.
I agree with you. I think that I certainly hope Sheepy has a better handling on 8.2 than he did on 8.1. There were some interesting draft choices in the last couple of weeks that they're very just not typical for him. I expect more from him. I hope that he bounces back. I hope this team bounces back. I think Vitality wins this one at 1.41. There's not enough value on it, but don't tempt yourself with the Unicorns of Love. It's not the matchup that's good for them. Next up, and we get to talk about Ruin here. Yeah, this is Schalke versus Giants again. A highlight game that I don't think anyone was expecting to get hype about heading into the split. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun is it for a top lane main like yourself to watch Ruin play? I was not. I think I even commented that
in the EU LCS, and when he shut me up so fast, and I was so happy. Oh man, to see a lot of the great top laners not leave EU. Most of the best top laners didn't leave. Odo stayed, Vizzy stayed, and so I honestly was expecting just more dominance from them. Oh, and Cabo. And more dominance from them and everyone else to just kind of be meh, Just maybe someone would show up and pop off a little bit, but I definitely did not expect it to be Ruin. All right, and watching him play, his mechanics are clean, his TPs are clean, his flanks are beautiful. I mean, some of the flank ults he has come in with, the Gnar, the Ornn, just clean, so clean. 7.5 KDA across both games on Gnar, and an 8 KDA the one game he played Ornn. And granted the Cho'Gath loss, I don't like that draft in that game regardless. I was not a fan of that when I saw that. Right. But you put the guy on something that has these game-breaking team fight ultimates, and oh wow, this team's amazing. Weird. It's almost like a certain top laner is setting up 4 people to just get womboed, and maybe that'll help you carry games. I think he looks like Impact. From from a season ago. That when Impact came to NA and started showing up and making plays, that's what he reminds me of right now. And it's awesome to watch. It's awesome to watch.
Yeah, he's so much fun, man. To give a breakdown of kind of behind the scenes of my prediction approach. Like, I had Giants in my first draft in my rankings. I had him at 7th. And then I stared at this team, and I'm like, oh, but, like, Betsy really isn't good. Am I really going to put a team with Betsy that high? No, I can't do that. Okay, I'm going to move him to 8th. And then I looked at it a little bit more, and I'm like, ooh, do I want to put, a team with Joko as better than, like, an H2K or a Vitality? And I'm like, no, I can't really do that. Okay, move it down. And then I looked at, like, okay, do I move him to 10th? No, because the reverse jinx of Roccat there, I need that. Yep. That's the only thing as a fan I can cling to. So he got slotted at 9th, and I'm sorry, Ruin. I should have stuck with my instincts because I thought he was going to be the most fun guy to watch that was a new player into the EU LCS. And I'm back and forth between him and Jiizuke. I think they're both right up here for me as far as just sheer playmaking potential. Those Gnar ults are gorgeous.
I love Jiizuke too, but I know but those Gnar ultimates won those games. Like they changed the outcome blatantly. And I've watched Jiizuke's outplays, they're nuts. But when you see multiple 4-man Gnar ults, it's really hard to not. Again, that was the whole reason Haunter got so much love at Worlds. Because those game-breaking, 4-man Gnar ults into the wall at right by the top. That play right there was why he got so much love. And again, watching not Jiizuke, I'm sorry, but watching Ruin do the same thing on a team that I expected to be really not good. Nothing beats this. Nothing beats this. Nothing beats seeing Giants come out and be a quality team. Be playing top tier League of Legends early in the season and doing it with a top laner who I expected to be mediocre, playing Gnar like an Impact or like a Haunter, in the first split he's showing up in EU LCS. It makes my day.
Yeah, it's awesome. So all of this is to say that the fact that Shulker favorites in this game, and you can grab Giants Gaming at 2.1. That is silly amounts of value. Grab Giants at 2.1, call it a day, and just wait for Ruin to do Ruin things. And it's a strong play. God, he's so much fun to watch. We need to move on.
He's great to watch. Yeah, let's do it.
I need to find a way to splice some Ruin clips right there as we're doing this.
Yeah, right.
Oh my god. Next up is Roccat versus Fnatic. This is one of those that I would theoretically be terrified of had it been what we were seeing at the beginning of the season. Now I'm trying to talk myself into it. I'm trying to tell myself, hey, this Roccat team can win games. They're 3-1 right now. maybe they hold on a little longer. Maybe this does work out. Is this me as a fan being blinded to the weaknesses, or is this a legit win opportunity for them here?
I actually think that Fnatic's not a terrible matchup for them. My only concern is that Caps into blank Caps can make even the best mid laners look like garbage if he gets ahead. So if he starts snowballing into blank, Memento gets a little bit behind when he's been playing really well when he's ahead. And honestly, I think Soaz is a better top laner than Prophet. Prophet's having a strong start, but I really think that Norscarin and Memento and Blank have been making that team, and Prophet's been adding a definite amount of value. But Soaz is a legend of legends. That guy, his escapes, everything from his escapes to his TPs to his ability to CS from any deficit, he is really hard to shut down. And I like Memento into Broxa here, so that reason is why I can see Roccat winning this. But it's close. It's really close. And if they, if people learn from, I think if you keep Norscarin off of Braum, that right there also reduces the effectiveness of this team. So whether or not Fnatic are able to exploit that, and whether or not you can get Broxa ahead in that matchup, I don't know. This is close for me. I'm really torn on one.
You know what? I should just be happy that it's close. Because that's something I would not have been able to say heading into it. This makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because I do think that the bot lane of Fnatic is going to be stronger, and that's something when if they're not in a comfortable spot. We haven't had, that bad Hiku game yet. Like, we know it's coming. It's going to happen. There's no way that Hiku goes an entire split without having that game. This feels like it could be that. It's going to be very hard for Blank to be as dominant in skirmishes against a mid laner like Caps, who is so experienced and whose positioning, if nothing else, has been very solid. I'm nervous. I will say this. Fnatic are favored as 1.65 favorites, which is pretty heavy. That puts Roccat in 2.2. That's worth a flyer. That's worth a flyer there.
I mean, that's worth looking at. I could to give you just a little bit more faith. I could really honestly see Hilly throwing this game. If Hilly starts going for plays, Norscarin's on something other than Braum that people haven't had a chance to scout, and Hilly starts playing, he's been on some stuff he's a little uncomfortable with. He hasn't looked nearly as strong as he did when he was on UOL. And I could see him throwing this game away and giving each a chance to just be ahead for free. So I do think that is there, but like you said, it's hard to not have Fnatic favored when you look at that bot lane matchup. And like you said, the fact that we're waiting on that EQ game.
Yeah, it's coming, man. I will say one thing that gives me solace. You talk about Hylissang having some problems with those kinds of deaths. 110 and 21 on the year for a 2.2 KDA. That's not great. 64.7% kill participation as a support. That's not great.
That's really not great.
But he's not the worst KDA on his own team. Soaz, 9-13 and 13 for a 1.7. People aren't talking about it because he's always been in the, he's one of the best top laners in the league. He's had a couple moments where it was like, look at that play. But day in, day out, Soaz doesn't look like the guy he was before. And Rocket's going to need that because if that guy comes back, I think Prophet's in trouble. But if he's struggling, Rocket moves some attention to the top side of the map. Let some roams go off there. Let Blank try to make some plays. Just saying, it's not impossible. I'm keeping the faith.
I hear you. Whenever Soaz plays poorly, I don't feel like it's ever for very long.
Yeah, it's not.
And again, Prophet's having a strong start to the season, but I've watched both of them play a good bit, and it's really, really difficult for me to not think that Soaz is going to sit down, go to the drawing board, figure out what they got to put him on to get back to form, and have him just run away with it again. I watched him play I'm trying to remember. I think it was spring of 2016. He had a bad split for like 6 weeks, and then the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks, he just absolutely obliterated everyone until they made it to playoffs. So
he didn't look that great in spring of 2017 either. Like he those moments in his career. He always bounces back. I know it's coming. I know, and like it feels like a lot of things could converge on this game. I'm gonna hold out faith a little bit longer. I want to rapid fire this next game. G2 versus H2K. G2 are the favorites here, pretty considerably. 1.49, which is the second most favored a team has been this whole week in Europe against this H2K team. 30 seconds. How could H2K pull off this upset if they're going to do it?
Santorin needs to find a way to abuse Yank on jungle. Midi J just needs to hope that Wonder makes a TP like he's made in his last 4 games.
Seems fair.
GG.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Don't feed perks.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in it. This H2K team does really just not look good. I don't think they're good at any, like, if you're like, what's H2K's thing right now? Like, what's the thing that they do well? I don't know that I have an answer for you. They're not, like, the worst in the league at anything, particularly.
Yeah.
They are what we thought Giants was going to be with that mediocre veteran lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. The only other thing I could see, I think, like, they look like a transplant bot lane playing solo queue, kind of like Sven and Midi right now. And so if you see them continuing to play like that, they'll lose to a worse team than them. So that's a possibility. But outside of that, I don't really see any way that H2K was other than G2 throwing this game away.
Yeah, that's very fair. We're going to move on to the last game of the week. It's Misfits versus Splyce. This is an interesting game. This, in the preseason, I would have said this is like a title preview match. I liked this Splyce team on paper. They've struggled a bit. They've had some growing pains, I think it's safe to say. Where do you see this Splyce team heading into week 3? Are they turning the corner here, or are you still concerned?
I think they're turning the corner, actually. I think this Splyce team doesn't look that bad. I think Niski is definitely a liability. It's going to be difficult for them to beat Misfits because they match up well in the specific areas that Splyce is going to be looking to carry. Especially just Senkooks is... When Senkooks plays well, he is unstoppable. He understands this, like the Splyce organization, and again, Hansama and Mickey are just disgusting right now. Kabi and Kasing have been a huge part of Splyce's success, and I think that'll be a great matchup to watch and a huge. I hope resources get thrown down there. I want to see Maxlor, Hansama, Mickey against Sing just fighting it out in the bot lane. I want to see that. I feel like it would be great. Alfari to Omne TPs left and right. That's the game I want to see, and I hope I see it. But honestly, I think that it's going to boil down to a little bit of a back and forth, and then Misfits are going to just find the right fight in mid game, and once again just snowball and walk away with this. Alfari looks great right now, and even Odo, who I really did watch his game super closely, very obviously because of the Alawi game. But because of that, I paid extra attention in his following game. His mid game and his late game look strong, but his early game hasn't been fantastic. And Alfari's been playing really clean. Maxlor's gonna be ahead of Xerxes, in my opinion, in the jungle, provided they put him on an active early game jungle. But I think that he's gonna end up ahead, and that means has a slight misstep. Maxlor's going to get up, but they're not going to let off the pedal. They're not going to throw the game at 90 minutes or 67 minutes. They're going to shut this down at 30.
Yeah, this is real tough for me. I want to believe in Splyce. I like the potential on this roster, and I think this is a team that will get better as the season goes on. I like their coach. I like the foundation they have, and I'm glad you mentioned Kabi because I feel like he's one of those guys that we kind of forget about sometimes. It's like we know he's good. Like
fantasy.
We've all settled that he's very good, but we very rarely recognize that he is a truly great player at this point in his career. 90.6% kill participation right now. Guy's playing out of his mind, and he deserves all the credit he gets. I'm glad that Alawi game happened for Odoamne. Lowest KDA among all top laners at 1.1 right now. He's had 18 deaths in 4 games. That doesn't do that. Like, you can't.
But that Alawi game was like half of those deaths, though.
I know.
He died. So again, I hear you, but at the time, I went in on Vedius a little bit about this on Twitter, because everyone was talking about how unimpactful he was and how it was, irrelevant. Yeah, he put the team behind by dying to some really blatant, very obvious. I tweeted about them before they happened. That Ryze mid gank, I was like, they're gonna. I called it exactly. Jungle, Ryze, and top are gonna be there. They're gonna gank Odo under the turret. It's gonna be an easy take. He's dead. That one was obvious. And then him walking back to lane in bot lane at 19 minutes, with no vision, just walking on the side of the bush, with nothing else to do. That gank was obvious too. But after that, he played that game perfectly. He landed test of spirit after test of spirit on the AD carry. He wasn't hitting tanks. He was testing the right targets. He was shutting out fights completely by himself. He was zoning 2 and 3 people, and that helped them snowball get back into the game. And then that's why you see Kabi having free shots at people, because everyone's sitting in front dealing with Odoamne, who is, by the way, 2 and 6 at this point, and still at 2 and 6 smashing 2 people in the back line. So again, I know his KDA is super weak. That's primarily off of 1 game. His other game, he looked pretty strong in outside of the first 6 minutes. No, honestly, he had some moments, but when you're talking about what other top laners are looking, I don't think anyone's playing hyper impressive outside of my boy Ruin. No top laner is outright carrying games. Alfari isn't even outright carrying games. That is a huge team play oriented mechanic, and so I think being that hard on Odo is a little unwarranted. Because, again, a lot of those stats are coming off of a really bad Alawi game that he still did the second most damage in and absorbed 77. He absorbed 77,000 damage. He absorbed more damage that game than the other 2, than his jungle and support combined.
It turns out that if Alawi is given way too much time to scale, eventually she gets there. Maybe I'm being harsh because I'm comparing Odoamne to what Odoamne should be and what he's been every other season of his LCS career. This does not look like a guy who's one of the top laners in Europe right now. I don't think he's playing like that guy, and he needs to be that guy if Splyce are going to be title contenders or even semi-finalists. I think they need more from him.
I agree with you, but that's why I think the Alawi game, good that it happened. Punished him for his laziness on his pathing, just predicting the ganks. When you play Alawi as an Alawi one trick, these are obvious ganks that are coming. And had he taken the time to adequately prepare the wave or even predict them and just leave the turret to go, he would have been fine, and they would have smashed that game in record time. They would have been so far ahead. The problem was he got behind on Alawi, but he still played the matchup really well after that, and he showed that he is top talent, because when people get behind on Alawi, that is not a fun champion to play from behind. That is someone that gets one-shot by carries that are ahead. That is someone that gets blown up if you miss a test of spirit. And he just wasn't. He landed like 90% of his test of spirit after that, and onto key targets. So again, I understand, like, he definitely almost threw that game, but he also simultaneously saved it.
I mean, that's fair. I'm a little bit more concerned about him than you are, but I get where you're coming from. And you know what? He is one of the best top laners in Europe. He's done that before. I think he can get there again. And when he does, they're going to be a much better team for it. This match is going to be a tough one. 1.6 favored for Misfits versus 2.25. It sounds like you would take the flyer on Splyce at that kind of value. You think they win this game maybe more than 40 to 45% of the time. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. Singh is playing great right now. Kabi's playing great. If you can find a way to keep Niski even with Sencooks and get Xerxes ahead of Maxlore, they can win this game. But I'd still say Misfits are the very obvious favorite here.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I also think that this has gone on a little bit longer than we expected when we drew up this plan. So we're going to take this to a part 2. I think that's the best way to handle it here. So for EU fans that won't be joining us for part 2, thank you so much for listening. You should follow us on Twitter. I'm at RedShirtKing. Xander, where can the nice people at home find you?
You can find me on twitch.tv/Orzaidus or twitter.com/Orzaidus. Loving to chat about League of Legends.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that will be in the description, as well as our Discord, where you're more than welcome to hang out. I watch games live with people whenever I can, so I'd love to have you there if that's something you guys would be interested in. And I do read every comment, so if you leave them, they're appreciated. And, if you like the show, telling other people about it is the greatest thing you can do to help out. I get that message at least once a week. We really, I appreciate the support. And I'm sure, the more excuses I have to do more content and invite people like Xander on the show, the happier I think we're all going to be. So let's make that happen. Let's get to part 2. And until then, goodbye, Internet.